Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I have day 3 of my Once Upon a Book Club Advent box. So stay tuned. So let me start out by saying, if you haven't watched day 1 and day 2 of the Once Upon a Book Club Advent boxes, I definitely recommend you go back and check those out. I'll link day 1 up here. And I'll see you back here when you get done with those. But today we are doing the day 3 in here, and well, the way I've been doing these is reading the next story in the 12 Days of Book Clubmas. These are a bunch of short stories, and each one has a gift that goes along with it. And because these are longer than they have been in the past, I'm pretty much just doing one day per video because it is a lot of reading. So day 3 is called Somewhere by Celisa Loza. I don't know. There is a Spotify playlist link that goes along with this story too, which is interesting. It says dress rehearsal. A blur, a tug, then a flurry of red on the floor. Lena's hands shot to her stomach as she saw the red sash that had been so delicately stitched onto the iconic white dress with the ruffles laying on the ground. She looked up in shock as Reagan glared into her face. The rest of the room stood frozen in time. "You do not belong here." "You don't belong anywhere," shouted Reagan. Lena sucked in a gulp of air before she slapped her hand across her mouth and suppressed a cry. She ran off the main stage, through the backstage, and out the doors into the cool California winter night. Her perfectly curled brown hair shone in the moonlight, while what felt to be the final shard of her heart broke. Time rushed back, and the stage returned to commotion. 2 months before. Alright, it looks like we've got you all set up, and your next class, starting in 15 minutes, is drama. "Excuse me, drama?" startled Lena. Yes, the guidance counselor stammered while shuffling papers. "The only other elective with availability is advanced photography, and since you said you've never taken an introduction course, I can't put you in there." "I'm sure there are options like set design if you don't feel comfortable," Lori interjected immediately. "You won't have to be front and center if you don't want to. Right, Miss Espino?" she asked with an arched eyebrow and a little too high pitch of a voice. Her optimism overflowed in this full foster mother hopefulness with a little bit of mama bear attitude. "Yes, of course," replied Miss Espino, just a little too quickly, as though she wasn't so sure herself. "The great thing is we are all at the beginning of the second trimester. Mr. Szymanski is just assigning roles to the next musical they're working on, The West Side Story." Lena felt a pick in her heart upon hearing the name of her late grandmother's favorite musical. In order to prevent tears, she settled on rolling her eyes. If she couldn't control any of the choices in her life, since it seemed everyone made them for her, from the courts to the system to the foster parents of the season, she would take advantage of showing the one thing she could control, her facial expressions. She reminded herself that she just had one more year until she turned 18 and could finally make it on her own. She wouldn't let any obstacle that could appear this year deter her from finally moving on to independent living. Then she wouldn't have to deal with anyone at all and could protect her heart. Fine, Lena stood up, grabbed her backpack, placed her headphones back in her ears, and forced a smile. "Shall I go to class?" A song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. "A Change Is Gonna Come" by Sam Cooke. Drama. 17 heads swiveled around to face her as soon as the metal door thudded into place behind her. All eyes turned to Lena, and she stared back, just as curious. Behind the students, splayed throughout 3 rows of seats, was a large stage with worn wood floors, stage props ranging from hats to brooms, and dusty red curtains held by layered rope as they lined each side of the stage. Propped on the edge of the right of the stage sat a large man with a green and white plaid shirt and peppered gray hair on his head and throughout his beard. He peered up at her through thin glass frames and warmed the room as a slow smile spread across his face. "Well, hello there and welcome. How shall we receive your presence, young lady?" Lena broke out of her daze and began walking down the aisles toward them. She pulled the forlorn Jansport backpack off her back and towards her chest as she reached inside for her new schedule. "I'm your new student," she said as she handed him the slip. She was used to this part. "Keep your head up, play it cool, stay quiet, and keep out of people's business," were her top 4 rules for blending in at a new school. "This appears to be true. Welcome to Pueblo High's theater department," he boomed. "Take a seat and prepare to be transformed." Then waved his hand towards the row of students. She exhaled in relief when he didn't make her introduce herself to the class and share where she's from. She turned, saw an open seat at the end of the 3rd row, and sat in a blue rickety chair. She felt the gaze of the other teens on her. Most were curious, 2 appeared angry, and 1 took her breath away. 2 brown eyes, with a slight hint of green in them, looked at her under heavy lids with the longest eyelashes she had ever seen. Smooth espresso skin covered a strong jawline and cheekbones leading to the darkest black waves of curls on his head. Their eyes caught and stayed, introducing themselves to one another in the most informal yet personal way. Lena gulped and forced her eyes away. Absolutely no distractions, she scolded herself, and turned her attention back to Mr. Szymanski as he dove deep into the telling of 2 young lovers from different parts of their neighborhood, fighting for unity. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. Maria, Maria by Carlos Santana featuring the product G&B. 1 week later during lunch. "What's with the iPod?" she heard a voice asking from above her and lifted her gaze to see a teasing smile. She was leaning against the brick wall of one of the buildings, doing her best not to be seen, but the beautiful boy with the espresso skin managed to see her. She has learned by now that his name was Seneca, and although she attempted to avoid him because of the shocks he sent her body, he always found a way to talk to her. She slightly smiled, then hesitated and tightened her hands around the heirloom as though he were going to take it. She considered whether to tell a lie or to go with the truth. "It belonged to my mother." She released some of her tight grip. "Belonged?" "Yes, belonged. She's not around anymore." She didn't tell him how excited her mom was that February in 2006, when she got the newest up-and-coming gadget, and how it felt like magic to have so many songs in the palm of her hand, or how it was one of the few ways to keep the memories of her mom before the mental illness took over, or how she never met her father, but his favorite song was in there, so she felt connected, or how it reminded her that Abuelita would sew late into the night when she became her guardian, and Lena would listen to her iPod every night until her death, or how she learned how to use a beat-up third-hand laptop given to her by one of her foster parents to keep her music updated in it. The oars were endless. "I get that. My dad's not around." He looked down at his feet as he said it. She all of a sudden had an urge to open up, something she never did, a way to show she sympathized and understood the pain. "And it's more than that. Music takes me back, and it also takes me away. I picked up different songs based on my own family, different tastes of music from other different foster families, people I met at different schools. It's one of the only forms of my history I have." "So it's like a musical history book." She laughed. "It's a musical her story book." "That's cool. What are you listening to now?" She slid the black neckband headphones off her head and handed them to him. He placed them over his ears as she pressed play, and they sat together as he listened to pieces of her story. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist or YouTube. Unthinkable by Alicia Keys. Auditions. The winter feeling finally made its entrance in Los Angeles. 60 degrees called for sweaters, beanies, and the latest stylish boots for the average Angelino. After the final bell of the school day rang, students rushed into the theater and immediately began pulling the top layers of clothes from their bodies. Laughing, jokes, excitement, and singing danced through the air in anticipation of the day's auditions. Mr. Szymanski was known for his unconventional approach to cast parts in his productions. He always began with smaller part additions leading to the main roles. And with every part played, no matter how small, one had to play through the chosen scene or song, then answer a question about the context or character. He felt it was pivotal that an actor was more than one who just looked the part, but could truly connect with and bring the character to life. As soon as the students were settled, the process began. Scenes played out over various characters, from the Jets to the Sharks, to fill-in roles for characters like Baby John, Velma, Indio, and Consuelo. Officer Krupp's auditions had everyone roaring. Energy intensified as auditions for Anita, Bernardo, and Riff went on. And by the time the two main character auditions came up for Tony and Maria, the room was on pins and needles. "All right, Reagan, you're up," said Mr. Szymanski. Everyone knew how badly she wanted the part. She talked about it every chance she got, and could often be found singing "I Feel Pretty." Most would agree she did have the prettiness for the part. Her fair and flawless skin drew many eyes to her, and she even wore a white long sleeve with ruffled cuffs to align with the character. Reagan sang beautifully alongside Stephen, who was trying out for Tony, and they both beamed at the end of their song. "Now, Reagan, what are we learning from this scene here? What message are Tony and Maria portraying?" Love is always the answer. They are ready to make life as they want it. It's all about them, and they are going to make it. Polite applause followed as she took a bow and smugly returned to her seat. "Lena, you're up." "I'm not planning on auditioning, Mr. Szymanski. I'm glad to assist with set production," sputtered Lena. "I've heard you singing along with that iPod of yours backstage. I think this might be worth the shot. One try, and if it doesn't work, your wish will be my command." She hesitantly walked up to the side of the stage, up the steps, and into position next to Stephen. He urged her on with a gentle smile, then handed her the script, which she didn't need after hearing it so many times. She looked down, slightly blinded by the lights, and caught eyes with Seneca. He kept his face serious and nodded, helping center her one last time. She closed her eyes for a second and imagined her abuelita at her sewing machine and urging her on with her serious yet warm demeanor. "Tú los puedes hacer, mija. You can do this." She turned towards Stephen, the piano, and together they fell into song. I also don't know if I pronounced that right, and if I didn't, I'm sorry. She let the lyrics croon out of her mouth and reverberate through her body. She let the lyrics bring her hopes, her pain, her feelings come to life. She let Lena and Maria become one. Someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a new way of forgiving. Somewhere, there's a place for us. Somewhere. When the song was over, the room was soundless, mesmerized. A peace had fallen over all. Stephen smiled and winked at her, bringing her back into the world. It felt as if no one else was breathing when Mr. Szymanski asked in a hushed tone, "Lena, what are we learning from this scene here? What message are Tony and Maria portraying?" All eyes were on her again. She bit her lip. "They're tired of hurting. They're full of hurt from a broken world that they have no control over. But together they are hopeful. They share dreams of belonging to each other, but not just each other, of belonging together in the world, of really being loved, safe, and accepted. And in their love, they are unifying force for all that hurt and wrong in the world." She attempted to return to her nonchalant demeanor. I mean, maybe that's what it could be about. "And this is why you will make our perfect Maria." There was a gasp in the room, then voices of excitement. Reagan stood up, burst into tears, and stormed out of the room. Lena stood looking horrified. In under 10 minutes, her plan of going under the radar for the year was thrown out of the window. Song from Lena's iPod. Somewhere by Tony and Maria from West Side Story. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. Winter break. The weeks leading up to the winter break were full of fun that Lena hadn't anticipated. Rehearsals were long, but there was so much comfort in the exhaustion. She was starting to build camaraderie with the other students. Well, most of them. Reagan still used any opportunity she had to shoot her menacing looks. After getting the part of Velma instead, she remained upset that Lena was the star of the show. Lena did her best to ignore it. Besides, she had other feelings to focus on, like the spark in her heart that maybe, just maybe, this place could be called home. During spring break, she learned that Lori had a sewing machine of her own passed down from her own abuelita. She had learned that after being single for so long and not wanting to rush into a relationship, she decided to become a foster parent on her own. Her successful career in nonprofit had opened her eyes to how many teens were passed by and left to live in group homes. She decided she wanted to become a foster parent to a teen. Although uncommon for Mexican Americans to foster a child that was non-related, it was the best path for Lori. And slowly they were becoming family. They spent hours hunting thrift shops during break, searching for the perfect Maria-esque dress. They settled on a light cotton white dress. Then Lori herself stitched on the red sash and made ruffles. Lori bought her the prettiest white staged heels to match her dress. It had been a long time since Lena felt such care, and although she wanted to fully embrace it, she still guarded her heart like it was too good to be true. She couldn't deny, more than anything, she wanted this California life with Lori to be hers. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist, California Stars by Billy Bragg and Wilco. Dress rehearsal. They were practicing the mambo scene for what felt like the 1000th time. The choreography was fun, yet intricate. It was even harder to focus in any scene with Maria's brother Bernardo, the role Seneca received. They had continued spending time together, connecting over music and family life. She couldn't deny the sparks. As Mr. Szymanski took a call in his office, the entire cast was left on stage. They began joking around, discussing the upcoming winter formal, and who had invited who to the dance. Drama kids, we're the weird creative ones that no one gets. They make assumptions about us because they don't get us. We live in a world of imagination and stories. We are the outsiders, Stephen said. So I guess we're all going with each other. We belong together. Reagan saw this as a chance for payback. Well, most of us belong here. Give it a break, Reagan, called one of their castmates. Why should I? We don't know anything about her, but she waltzes in and we're expected to just roll out the red carpet for her? Lena had enough. Does this really make you feel better, Reagan? Putting others down in order to raise yourself up? Reagan smirked. I don't have to put anyone down when they come from the bottom, Foster. Lena stood, mouth agape, confused. She also felt a pang of truth in Reagan's words. Everything Lena believed about herself came out of her nemesis' mouth. Seneca stepped forward, grabbed Lena's hand, and faced Reagan. The only ones who belong on the bottom are the ones trying to put others there. That's why Lena was given the role of Maria, and not you. Reagan lunged forward. A blur, a tug on the dress, then a flurry of Maria's red sash on the floor. Lena's hands shot to her stomach as she saw the red sash that had been so delicately stitched onto the iconic white dress with the ruffles lying on the ground. She looked up in shock as Reagan glared into her face. The rest of the room stood frozen in time. You do not belong here. You don't belong anywhere, spouted Reagan. Lena sucked in a gulp of air before she slapped her hand across her mouth to suppress a cry. She ran off the main stage, into the side, through the backstage, and out the doors into the warm California winter night. Her perfectly curled hair shined in the moonlight as what felt to be the final shard of her heart broke. Time rushed back and the stage returned to commotion. Not commotion like moments before, full of twirling skirts, foot stomps, and the sound of the word mambo fluttering through the air, but a commotion of heated emotions, shouts, and whispers. How could you, Reagan? Shuffling of feet, running out the door to chase Lena, rumors blooming in the hushes of the murmurs. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist, Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. Lori's house. She slammed the door open and ran into the room where she slept. She refused to think of it as her bedroom. How could she ever think anything there truly belonged to her? She threw herself onto her bed and instinctively reached for her comfort and security. But like every other moment of the last 2 years, there was no one to secure her. So she reached for the single belonging that truly felt like hers, her grandmother's pillow. And it says to open your gift. So let's find day 3 in the box. Okay, so day 3 comes in this little baggie. This is really soft. Okay, so it's a pillowcase and it says, shh, I'm reading. I like that. And it's like a, oh, I don't know what the word for this is. Oh, it's like the burlap kind of material. Okay. Okay, continuing on with our story. The pillow her grandmother had stitched together with her own hands. It had previously been hers, but after months of Lena using it, she told her it was hers. After Abuelita's unexpected death due to diabetes complications 2 years before and left her guardianless, it was her most sacred possession along with her iPod. She brought it to her chest and hugged it tightly, yet still the pain was too deep. She lifted it to her face and could smell the phantom, fresh lemon scent of her grandmother. Finally, the damn walls broke and she wailed the most pure, instinctive wail possible. She released the tears mourning the loss of her parents. She released the tears mourning the loss of her abuelita. She released the tears mourning the loss of her adolescence. She released the tears believing that she would never truly be understood or wanted. She let it all pour out. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. Dejimi Lorar by Carla Morrison. It felt like hours of tears when a knock surfaced through the door. I want to be alone. There was a pause before Lori's response. I get and respect that. I just want to be sure you don't feel lonely through this. Do I have permission to be with you? You want to be alone, but do you want to be lonely, or do I have permission to be with you? Lena wanted to push her away, but after the sting in Reagan's words, she knew she was tired of years of loneliness. Come in. The golden knob turned and opened slowly as Lori entered cautiously yet tenderly. She walked and sat on the edge of Lena's bed, then gingerly pulled her into her arms. I can't take it anymore. What did I do wrong to deserve this? I was born into my circumstances. I had no control or say, and I do my best, but I'm still never enough. Lena continued. How does an outsider belong in this world when she doesn't even fit in with the outsiders? Lori bit her lip, let the questions seep in before she responded. She looks inside herself. Lena, it's terrible what happened with your parents, and as much as I love having you here, I know it was just as bad losing your abuelita and you'd rather be there. But one thing I need you to know, Lori lifted Lena's chin so she could look into her eyes, none of that was your fault. Here's the real truth about outsiders. It's that each of us is one, but we are also not. We live deep inside our own worlds, looking at society through the lenses we were taught to wear. She paused. The thing is, we each get to look inside and ask ourselves, what is true for me? When we learn and accept our truth, we are no longer defined by whether or not we fit inside or outside of a group, because we know we belong to our own truths that nobody else can define. Laura sniffled. What is true for you? Lori sighed. For a while, I told myself the story that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for a man or to be a mother, even in my work. I felt like an imposter in everything I did. Then I asked myself, what is true for me? And all the things that make me me came into my head. I love to read and cry as fictional characters with big hearts learn about themselves, just as I love to connect with people with big hearts in my work. I love to have real conversations, not surface level ones. I love to spend time sewing, listening to the hum of my machine. I love to love and trust one day the right partner may come along. I know what is true for me is that I want to love a beautiful girl and call her my daughter. Lena looked up with hopeful eyes. I know that no role or title is who I am. Who I am is how I love and show up in this world, not my imperfections. I'm not single, I'm not childless, I'm not even my job title. I'm just Lori and I'm worthy. I am enough and I'm even loved just because of that. Lena let this sink in. When I look at you, Lena, I don't see an outsider of outsiders. I see Lena. I see you bobbing your head to your music. I see your smiles. I hear your voice. I see strength through struggles. I see a beautiful young woman who is worthy, enough and perfect just as she is. When I look at you, I see love. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify list. Fix You by Coldplay. Opening night. The curtains closed as the crowd erupted into cheers and began clapping for an encore. Lena felt as though she ran a marathon, but she was so grateful with Lori's encouragement, she decided to show up. She decided a lot of things last night, including not letting Reagan ruin this opportunity. She looked around at her classmates, thinking of how hard they worked together and how kind they were when she showed up that morning, about how for the first time in years she had friends. I belong here, she thought to herself, in this theater, in this school, in this city, in this home, with these people. I belong, just because I'm me. She smiled, grabbed the hand of her new friend Stephen on one side of her, and looked towards Seneca, who grabbed her other hand. He leaned over, kissed her on the forehead, and smiled the most gorgeous smile. They looked forward, awaiting the curtains to open again, and took another bow, together. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. Lena's father's favorite song, Together by Tierra. Finale. Lena walked out of the theater, hands full of flowers and her costume to wash and wear for the next day's show. Lena, hold up. She froze as she recognized Reagan's voice and slowly turned. You did great up there, you really did, said Reagan. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for yesterday and for making your past few months so terrible. The truth is, I saw your files on Mr. Semensky's desk and read that you're a foster child, and, well, I am too. Lena's eyes opened wide. Reagan rushed to finish what she had to say. I felt threatened. Threatened I would be uncovered. Threatened of losing my place in a school where I finally feel like I fit in. And when you got Maria, the threat became real and I flipped. Wow, I had no idea. But you do have an idea of this life, and honestly, if you'd let me, I'd like to start over. Maybe we can talk, give each other a safe space. Maybe even be friends. Lena grinned. I would love that, Reagan. By the way, you play a Superfly Velma. Hey, on stage, you're still a shark and I'm still a jet. Don't get your hopes up too high, Maria, she joked and turned towards her family. See you tomorrow. Lena walked towards Lori and got in the car in a trance. This day turned out to be one of the most amazing in her life. There's just one more thing to say. Lori, how do you feel about us becoming a long-term family? Adoption? Asked Lena. What about your one-year plan and independent living? Asked Lori. About that, I realized I can be independent in some ways and have a family. Someone pretty amazing told me I'm worthy of it all. Lori reached behind Lena's seat, opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder and handed it to Lena. Good, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Lena opened the briefcase and saw a stack of papers with a title at the top stating Foster to Adoption Application. Tears streamed down both of their cheeks as they locked hands. Let's go home? Lori asked. Let's go home, said Lena, as she reached over to turn on the radio. I choose the song. Song from Lena's iPod. Open the attached Spotify playlist. Lena's happy song. Limbo by Daddy Yankee. That was sweet. I lost my bookmark. Well, did you guys like this story? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you.